Guns are cool. Much like a wrecking ball is cool until it's hurtling towards your house, and Tesla coils are cool until you lick them. They're toys with no malicious purpose whatsoever. It's all fun and games playing with guns and destroying random objects with childish glee until grandma steps in front of the watermelon you obliterate her with a 12 gauge. Also, they're expensive. Guns, not grandmas. Hotdogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades is a virtual gun range. You can do the standard gun range stuff like plunking metal targets with a 2.2 rifle, but because it's a game, regardless of what some may have you believe, you can take it further. Full auto? Go ahead. Explosives? Go wild. The guns are obviously the center of the experience, and especially on the more advanced control scheme, they take a little while to get used to because of the attention to detail. There's like 45 quadrillion of them, each with unique firing modes, physical ammunition, safeties. At this point, you've even got underbarrel grenade launchers and bipods. Calling it a gun range isn't particularly accurate. Ballistic sandbox is a much better term. The deeper you look into it, the more content there really is. The sounds are also great. This is something that's very important with firearms in games, because there's nothing I hate more than you shoot a gun in a game and it goes. You want it to go. The attachment system is properly based on rails, which lets you do this. Or this. The whole physics engine is a masterpiece. Look at this climbing. Something about the game just makes it feel effortless in its maximization of content. Like there's tons of shit. Tons and tons of shit. But it doesn't feel like there's too much. You've just got a lot to play with. And it keeps getting better. It gets constant updates. It's one of those games that is just unstoppably updating over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's on update 105 as of November 5th. 105 updates over like a 6.5 year period. And the more updates it gets, the more and more slightly concerning fantasies it covers. For example, my favourite is the breaching simulator. I like to pretend I am average American police officer, and then breach a house full of targets. Over time, along with these updates, the developers have added, more interesting systems as well. You've got a complex AI that's used in many, many different scenes. You have armor systems, and to go with those armor systems, you have penetration and ricochet engines for different materials. And somehow, among all this, it manages to run stable at high FPS, which is not just a nice thing for VR, it's a necessity if you don't want to projectile vomit. Admittedly, most people who bother to invest in VR have pretty beefy PCs anyway, but still, it's always a good thing for a game to not, be a bloated, unoptimized piece of shit. So what's the catch? I mean, there doesn't have to be a catch. And I don't really have much bad to say about it. I guess it doesn't hold your hand. That's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't have a story. That's not really an issue, unless, they would come out with Hotdogs Horseshoes and Hand Grenades Telltale Edition. And it doesn't take itself seriously. Also a bonus, as far as I'm concerned. Gritty realism gets tiring pretty fucking fast, especially in a sandbox game. One downside that is just generally a downside of VR is to unlock its full potential. The movement, the climbing, all that. You need to do things that will trigger instant death in anyone that gets motion sick from VR. If you like the sound of it and have VR available, it's not expensive. It is definitely worth getting. Even if you only play it for a few hours, it's probably worth getting. But there's enough content in here that you could play it for a long time without getting bored. A few examples. There's a roguelike in the background that's taken hold. There's a zombie survival. There's an extremely faithful Team Fortress 2 adaptation. There's a bunch of Christmas modes. Christmas is great. And there is even worst world. You know, worst, like the sausage. I keep returning to it. It's my go-to when I go back to VR every sort of 6 months when I dust off the headset. I mean, it'd be even better on a decent headset because I've got a piece of shit VR headset and I love it. So let's say the Prince name symbol out of 10. Go back. Unless you're American, in that case it's basically Second Life.